Hey, how are you? Woohoo! It's good to see you again. It's been about like a year, I think, since I've been here with you. And yeah, I know I look different because I don't have all this. So, yeah. But yeah, you know, I love to be. I think Reverend Temple thinks of me as her spiritual spare tire. She called me on Thursday and said, you know, I'm not going to be able to make it. Can you go? And I can't think of a place I'd rather be than with you guys hanging out on a Sunday morning. So what I want to talk to you about this morning, I don't know, the title of my talk is The Art of Being on Purpose. This is a book, drawn from a book I wrote many years ago. Some of you may have read the book. But the essence of the point of the book and the point of what I want to talk to you about this morning is something that you notice the drama of life is just sucking us into so much stuff on the surface of life between what's going on in the media and what's going on around the world. We get stuck on this plane of mindlessness rather than mindfulness. And what I want to talk to you this morning about is the importance of understanding how to live a purpose-based life. And the very first thing, it's real simple. What you need to understand up front is that being on purpose is not a point of destination. There's no point of arriving at being on purpose. Your purpose stands before you in every given moment of every day. And that's what I want to talk to you about this morning. You know, so I can summarize the essence of the book by giving you a Reader's Digest version of the creation story by Dennis Merritt Jones. You ready? You have to listen because it goes very fast. In the beginning, there was only God. Still is. The end. Thank you. It doesn't get much more simple than that, but don't we complicate it, you know? People say, can you take that a little deeper? Yeah. In the beginning, there's only God. Think of God as the great no thing becoming the great everything. And before each of us arrived here, we're there in that nebulous area, one with the all. And little soul beings, and God is speaking to each of us, and she is saying, soul beings, I'm going to send you on a mission. You see that planet down in that corner of that galaxy, a little speck of dust? I want you to go there, and I want you to be me. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. and to make your journey easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two tools. I'm going to give you a uniform. It's called a human body. Treat it well, but don't get too attached to it because it will be returned upon completion of your mission. And number two, you're going to be given a personality. A personality is something you'll learn how, it'll help you in learning how to create interesting learning dynamics of how to express me in my highest essence, which is love. And the last, go ahead, clap, that's all right. The last thing that we hear before we shoot off into the light, God leans forward and she whispers in her ear and she says, by the way, when you get there, you're going to forget all about this conversation. So isn't that the way it is? So here we are, how many years later after we've arrived here, sitting in a spiritual community like this is very profound. You know that you're here because there's something stirring within you that is calling you to a higher ground of being on purpose, or you would not have been brought to this spiritual community. Can I get a witness for that? Purpose is such an interesting experience because I know this about life. I know this about the universe. The universe, when living things are being on purpose, the universe supports, it conspires to support them in thriving on bringing that purpose to life when we're living a purpose-based life, okay? And if you can think about it this way, you know, every avatar from every area of teaching anything about spirituality or life purpose has given us 4 questions to ask. And these 4 questions are, who am I? What am I doing here? Right? Where am I going to go when I leave here? Those, even boiled down to those three, what's the answer to all three of those questions? If God is all there is, we've already arrived at that conclusion, yes? Who you are is an individuation of the divine. Where you came from is the essence of the divine. What you're doing here now is being that essence in action, giving life form and expression to the divine. And when you leave here, where will you go? Nothing changes but form. You'll go back into the essence from which you came. What do you think this is? You ride around in, your soul rides around in this for a period of years. This is nothing than a carbon-based, biodegradable, disposable vessel. All right? That upon completion of the journey, the soul ejects it and goes back into the ethers from which it came. So that's really a tremendous mystery. But I guess the bottom line is this. If God is all there is, we're on a journey to a place we never left. Nothing changes but form, yeah? We're not, but it's, in other words, here's probably an easier way to say it. You couldn't be any more spiritual if you tried. On your worst day on the planet, you're still a spiritual being having a spiritual experience. You just forget about it. Right? There's a great story, a Sufi story about a student who's sitting on the riverbank trying hard to have that spiritual awareness, that spiritual experience. And he's sitting on the riverbank and he's chanting fiercely. He's saying, I am one with God, I am one with God, I am one with God, I am one with God. And a master teacher walks up and stands behind him and then sits down next to him. And the master teacher, the students continue to chant, I am one with God, I am one with God. The master teacher picks up his begging bowl in one hand and his walking stick in the other hand. And he begins to chant, this is my bowl, this is my stick. This is my bowl, this is my stick. Meanwhile, the student's going, I am one with God, I am one with God. The master continues, this is my bowl, this is my stick. Soon the student stops. He turns to the master and he says, all right, already. Any fool can see that's your bowl and that's your stick. Can't you give it a rest? I'm trying to have a spiritual experience here and realize I'm oneness with God. And what does the teacher say? And any fool knows you already are one with God. Why do you struggle to be so hard? That which you can't help but being. Take a nice deep breath. On your worst day on the planet, you're still one with God. I think of it as valleys and peaks. When we have those valley experiences, when you're in the darkness, things are not going well in the moment. You're in this valley where you feel like you're separated from life, and you could be an issue with a physical problem or a financial issue or a relationship issue, but there's darkness around you, and you forget about your oneness with God. 3 of you. And then there's the mountain peaks, where everything is all sunshine, love, light, green lights, right? And it's real easy to have that spiritual experience, right? But the important thing is to remember, there's no less God's presence in the dark moments than there is on the mountaintop experiences. It's just that in the valleys, we tend to go unconscious, and we begin to then build a story, pitch a tent and build a story and camp out in that story as to why things are so horrible. Rather than remembering that if we continue to be on purpose, that purpose will lift us to the next mountain point. Okay? As my dear friend Dr. Tom Costa used to say, I love this quote, he says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to stop and build a condo there. But that's too often, that's what we do, isn't it? So my point is this, you can't be any more spiritual than you already are. And so the question is, how do we integrate? How do we learn to integrate the fact that we are that spiritual being in those heavy, dark, feeling times of separation as well as on the mountaintop? Here's life. We're stuck doing this. We're doing. We're all taught very well how to do, yeah? From the day we were born, accomplish this. Go to school, get married, get the right job, get the right house, get the right boat, whatever it is. Get. That's my neighbor. He's got a boat, so I'm just kind of throwing that in front of him. Right? So the life is about do. And in that doing, we forget the most important thing, which is to be. Right? So the practice of the art of being is learning how to mindfully incorporate in our doing our being. So we live in that vortex, that space where our being intersects consciously. There's the operative word. Consciously with our doing. So when we can incorporate the awareness of God's presence in our doing, every moment of our lives is purposeful and purpose-filled. It's not a point of arrival, it's a point of being. Being present. And of course, that's the first thing I want to talk to you about is being present. You cannot be present if your mind's out there. Where's your mind most of the time? Either it's behind you or in front of you or behind you, yeah? Yeah, your body is always in the present moment, but our minds are oftentimes one way or the other. So I want to give you 3 questions that you can use as a litmus test to kind of help you discern how well you're doing at bringing your being into your doing. There's 3 practices that I want to share with you that they work for me. The first question you want to ask yourself on a daily basis: am I having fun? Can I get a witness for fun? You know what? We forget to have fun. We get stuck on the surface of life doing and we forget to have fun. And here's the question: where are you when you're having fun? You can't be any place but in the present moment, right? Yeah. I asked that question in Hawaii. I did a talk years ago back there. I asked that question: where are you when you're having fun? There's some guy at the back of the room says, "We're at the beach, dude." Which is true. You can be, it doesn't matter what your body's doing, it's what your mind is doing. Right? So when you're having fun, you're in the present moment. And in the present moment is where you can have a spiritual experience. Even if in the present moment you're in a place of darkness, if you struggle hard enough or look hard enough, you go deep enough, you'll find a place to bring joy out of that. Because when you're having fun, what do you become a vessel of? Joy. Joy is one of the highest vibrations next to love that God is in action. Yeah? I was on an airplane flight from Las Vegas to from Burbank to Las Vegas, and this is years ago. And the pilot comes on the intercom and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're just arriving over Las Vegas. I've got some good news for you, and I've got some bad news for you. The good news is we're arriving over Las Vegas. The bad news is they've closed down all the runways because we're encountering high desert winds. So we're going to be circling around up here until they can get us in one at a time. And they advise us it's going to get very turbulent, so please buckle your seatbelts and hold on." That's a true story. So we're circling around the airport 10 minutes into this, and the plane's doing this, whoop, hitting those air pockets up and down. Have you ever been in an airplane that did that? Kept doing it, right? And pretty soon the plane falls silent. Everybody is white knuckling. And of course, pretty soon the inevitable happens. You know what that is, don't you? Yeah. Somebody, how do we say it, fully utilized their air sickness container device. Which only encouraged others to be equally expressive in their disenchantment with the moment, right? And so pretty soon the plane was not only uncomfortable, but it was also not comfortable. Yeah. And so the plane continues to do this up and down, up and down. It's very silent, and all of a sudden the plane hits this bump. And from the front of the plane I hear this, whee! I'm thinking to myself, what fool doesn't know this is not fun? The plane hits another bump. Whee! I look up about 10 rows up on the left. There's a woman holding a toddler in her arms. And every time the plane would do this turbulent bounce, he'd throw his arms up in there and go, whee! Do that with me, come on. Whee! One more time, you're at the top of the roller coaster. Whee! Okay, here's my question. Doesn't that feel good? Where are you right now? You're not thinking about what you're going to have for lunch or what the doctor said last week. You're in the moment, being present with what is. Now, that's the gift, my friends. That's where life is waiting for us to show up. in the present moment. And when we're able to do that, we can find that sense of joy in the most unusual spaces and time. So the first point is, look for reasons to have fun, which means you also want to hang out with people who like to have fun. Don't hang out with puller downers, hang out with lifter uppers, right? And we'll talk about that in a minute. The second question is this: am I growing every day? Am I growing every day? What do living things that don't grow do? They die. That's exactly right. Ernest Holmes referred to this creative divine urge. He says it permeates every living thing. Every living thing has this creative urge moving through it. And if it could speak, it would say this: I've got to be more tomorrow than I was yesterday. It's life pushing out through every living thing. And he also gave us the universal imperative, which is the complement of the creative divine urge. Take a breath. The universal imperative is grow or die. And we're not talking just about our physical bodies. We're talking about everything that is living has life force in it, grows. Our relationships, our careers, our sense of self-expression, our spiritual community. There's so many places where we witness non-growth happening, and that is a slow march to withering up. Have you ever seen a potted plant that was root-bound? Of course you have. What's happening with that potted plant? The roots are turning in on themselves, right? And what happens is if they turn in long enough, the roots will choke off the life force and that plant will die. Yeah? But what happens if you take that potted plant and you put it into a larger growing environment, a larger pot, or even the ground, better yet? What happens to that plant? The roots turn back out and the life force surges through that plant and it thrives. Why? It found its purpose again, to be a thriving, growing plant. Now, I love metaphors. Here it is. Take a breath. Folks, some of us need to be repotted. And again, it doesn't necessarily, it can look at all the areas in your life where you may be feeling stifled. If your relationships aren't growing, they're dying. If your career is not growing and thriving, it's withering up. If your spiritual community doesn't grow, it's the same difference. Everything has life force and it must grow. And if you think you can create anything new from within the field you live in, you're wrong. You can only grow from stepping outside of the box of the unknown, and step into the unknown, rather. And that's where growth happens, in the unknown. I wrote a book on that called The Art of Uncertainty, by the way. It's all that book is about. Stepping into the unknown. A lot of times what keeps us from growing are the labels that we put on ourselves. I know Richard spoke he speaks to the fact that this is a church where we're labelless. We don't put labels on ourselves. What happens when we live up to or down to the labels that were stuck on us from the day we're born? So sometimes we have to start peeling off the labels: smart, dumb, tall, short, beautiful, white, black, yellow. Whatever the labels are that we've been wearing around us that have caused us to feel that sense of not expanding with life. And pull those labels off. And if we pull enough of them off, what do we get down to? If God is all there is, underneath all these labels is the essence of the divinity that I am. So maybe the question isn't to ask, who am I? Maybe the question to ask is, who am I not? Maybe I'm not who my teachers in school said I was, or my old minister, or my mom or dad, or whatever. Maybe I'm far more than that. How are you breathing? Take a deep breath. In my mindfulness classes, I talk about breathing a lot. The very first thing you did when you got to the planet was to breathe in. And the very last thing you'll do when you leave is to breathe out. But it's the countless breaths in between those two that we go unconscious. And we forget the gift and the treasure that life is in every holy instant. Yeah? Last question. Am I lifting others? Am I serving others? In other words, is my life more about just than me? What happens when we begin to consciously lift and serve others? Something very profound happens. We have a spiritual experience. If we realize that God is all there is, can I get a witness? Yes. That means that every action we take, whoever we're interacting with, whoever we're serving, is what? Some aspect of the divine, right? We get hung up thinking, well, I don't want to, serving is a big, heavy thing and it's going to require time and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. I serve, I walk my dog every morning and I look for broken glass and nails in the road. That's a form of service. Why? What am I doing? I'm serving somebody else from not getting a flat tire. I call that flat tire karma. I've never had a flat tire. Good karma, right? You could be standing in the supermarket and the person behind you has only 2 items in their bag and you've got a basket full. Just let them go before you. Driving through the mall, maybe there's a parking, that cherished parking spot right up in front that we all treat and pray for. Get over it. Go to the back, park someplace. You need the exercise anyway, but more than that, you're serving somebody else by giving them the gift of that parking space. You see, it's small things. It doesn't have to be big things. There's other ways you can serve. Get involved in serving in your spiritual community or a nonprofit someplace, but find a way to get out of yourself. And here's the practice that I think is really, really important to understand about this. When we spiritualize our service, it becomes seva, which is a Sanskrit word which means selfless service dedicated to God. Yeah? And so I'm going to step down here, and God said, somebody said God's a prankster because he does it all with mirrors. If there's only one of us here, how can it be anything else? Right? So may I use you this morning as my mirror? So when I stand in front of this lady, and I begin to remember God is, and I am, and that is inclusive of everything I say, think, and do, and everything I see. When I look into this lady's being, I don't look at her. So I'm not even asking your name because that's a label. I'm not interested in labels this morning. I peel away my judgments. Gender, age, color of your skin. I look into this being and I have a moment of remembrance. Oh, this is God looking at itself. And when I'm in that place of awareness, how could I ever abuse you or harm you or degrade you or be prejudiced against you? How could I do any of those things when I am in that place of totally understanding there's only one of us here? That is service in one of its highest expressions. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to bring it home. Have fun every day. Find a reason to have fun. In the moment of experiencing your fun, notice that you're present in the moment. Be the vessel for joy. Joy is contagious. Let it spill over. Seek ways to grow every day. You've got a spiritual community here that is abundant with classes and seminars and all the stuff. Every week there's stuff going on. I'm amazed by all the stuff that you guys do here. Get involved. Feed your soul, not just your body. Feed your mind. Do something that encourages you to expand your sense of self, and that's capital S. You with me? Yes. Okay. Find ways to serve. Service is not a point of arrival either. It's like purpose. It's every moment. If you're conscious and mindful and awake, you'll discover that every moment of every day, every second offers an opportunity to serve. Whether it's picking up a nail in the street or serving somebody in a very particular nice way, maybe just holding a door open for somebody, you can find ways every moment of every day to serve. Maybe it's doing the dishes for your beloved spouse rather than having them do it. That should get a couple points in here. So here it is. At the end of our journey on this beautiful planet, when we return to the ethers and we knock on heaven's door, of course, which is a metaphor too, isn't it? Where's heaven or hell? It's one thought away, yeah? We'll be asked two questions before we're entitled or invited to continue our journey of expansion, unfolding. Well, the two questions are universal, and I'm sure you may have heard them before, but open your heart and take them a little deeper. Because if you can practice them now, when you get to knocking on heaven's door, it'll be a slam dunk. The first question is, did you learn to love well? Be a student of learning how to love well. And of course, if God in its highest vibration is love, what is that? It's a very simple practice, isn't it? Just live in the awareness, God is, I am. God is, I am. And I guarantee you the thoughts that arise from that and the actions that are stimulated by that will be love. The other question is the planet a better place today than it was the day you got here? Because you were there. And if you can answer yes to both of those questions, you will know, you may be assured, you have been the one, literally the one, who has stepped through that portal of being on purpose. And you will have been the one who has literally brought heaven to earth. That's being on purpose. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.